Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Friday, September 4. The Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party has retained and increased its majority in Parliament after yesterday's general election. Preliminary results show that the JLP has won 49 seats, while the People's National Party, led by Dr. Peter Phillips, won 14 seats. This is the 18th general election to be held in the country since universal adult suffrage in 1944. Voting began at 7 a.m. and the polls closed at 5 p.m. The Electoral Office of Jamaica EOJ says approximately 37% of eligible voters cast their ballot, compared to 48.37% in the 2016 general election. After last night's preliminary results, EOJ returning officers today commenced the final count of all ballots for their constituencies at a designated counting center. In his victory speech at the JLP's headquarters on Belmont Road, Mr. Holness said his administration would pay great consideration to the expectations of all Jamaicans and not just to those who supported the party. And acknowledging that the election took place in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Prime Minister said government would continue working to keep everyone safe. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health and Wellness last night reported that the country had lost another 2 individuals to COVID-19 and recorded an additional 74 new cases. The 2 latest COVID-19 related deaths are of an 81-year-old female from St. Anne and a 35-year-old male from Manchester. There are now 29 COVID-19 related deaths in Jamaica. The island has also recorded 1 additional case of a coincidental death of a person confirmed with the virus, a 56-year-old male from Clarendon. Of the 74 new cases, 25 were recorded in Kingston and St. Andrew, 21 in St. Elizabeth, 14 in St. Catherine, 6 in Manchester, 5 in St. Thomas, and 1 each in St. Anne, St. James, and Westmoreland. They bring the country's total number of COVID-19 cases to 2,896. There are currently 1,873 active cases being monitored, while recoveries are now up to 921. 30 medium-sized companies will be able to access a maximum of 14 million Jamaican dollars to introduce or expand innovative processes, products, and/or services. This is being done under a $2.6 million Innovation Grant Fund. The fund, which began operations on September 1, is being implemented by the Development Bank of Jamaica, DBJ. It is the first of 6 new products being launched by the DBJ and falls under the Boosting Innovation, Growth and Entrepreneurship Ecosystems BIGI program. This 10-year, $50 million program is funded by the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB. At the signing of the financing agreement in March, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke said the program was intended to fill gaps within Jamaica's entrepreneurial ecosystem while strengthening the existing framework.
The objectives of the first operation will be to promote innovation and productivity among established MSMEs with high growth potential, and to promote sustainable growth in scalable startups, and to create a sustainable pipeline of high growth potential startups.
Qualified entities for the Innovation Grant Fund must be registered for a minimum of 7 years, generating annual earnings of between $75 and $150 million, and have a board of directors in place. Entities must log on to the project website thinkbiggie.com to complete the application form. Evaluations will be undertaken at the end of September or each month depending on the number of applications that meet the criteria, until the 30 entities being targeted for support are identified.
We welcome BIGI as a continuation of much of the work that we have been providing for the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises ever since we made the strategic decision to focus on MSMEs.
Minister of Sport Olivia Grange says the 12 clubs in the Football Premier League are now benefiting from grants in keeping with government's commitment to provide support for sport practitioners affected by the COVID-19 crisis. Through the Sports Development Foundation, a one-time grant of $500,000 is now being dispersed to each of the Premier League clubs. It's to provide assistance to the players and staff and offset administrative costs. Minister Grange says this is being done alongside the establishment of the Athlete Registry to ensure that the funding is administered in a streamlined manner.
Those funds will be sent directly to the clubs. But in addition to that, we're inviting athletes to register on the A registry so that they will be in a position to access the funds.
The minister says the Premier League Clubs Association itself will also receive a grant of $500,000 towards its administrative expenses. Further details on the application process for other athletes will be published on the ministry's website at mcges.gov.jm. And finally, Chairman of the Jamaica Cooperative Automobile and Limousine Tours, Brian Thelwell, is assuring that tour bus drivers in the tourism sector are making an effort to remain COVID-19 compliant. He says the buses are equipped with sanitizers, and once passengers come out of the vehicle, all handles and other surfaces are sanitized to ensure the safety of passengers. In addition, he points out that operators have to adhere to the stipulations in the COVID-Resilient Certification for Transport, which limits where tour bus drivers can take guests.
The hotels to which we are attached has definitely laid out they cannot leave the hotel to any place outside of the corridor that is not COVID resilient. If they do so, it is to their own peril, which would simply mean at this time those parking privileges would be withdrawn should they breach the rule at this point. So everybody is on board.
Mr. Thelwell was addressing a think tank held at the JIS's Montego Bay regional office on Monday. He was among a group of tourism stakeholders who addressed the think tank to give an update on the level of compliance within the sector and the work of the COVID-19 Resilient Corridors Committee. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.